right, everybody, welcome to Studio B. I am your host, Pastor MDH. Thank you so very much for joining us here on the set. Today, remember that you need to, or you can, like, follow, subscribe, share this podcast. We pray that you are finding some value in what we are talking about here on the set. But today, I got something that is always dear to my heart. And this is something that I've been standing on the soapbox for the last 10 plus years. And I have been advocating for this particular thing for a long time because I believe in its value and its importance. On June 19th, June 19th is a big day. June 19th is Father's Day. Father's Day. Father's Day. Father's Day. And I am on a quest, I believe, given to me by God to make fathers matter again. That fathers matter. Now, I'm not talking about all the deadbeats. I'm not talking about the dudes that don't run away from their responsibilities and all of these other things that people will point to as to justify why fathers don't get the just due that they deserve. But let me just share with you my own personal experience, and I'm going to jump into a couple things. I am a hell of a father. I am a great father. It's not me tooting my own horn, but man, let me tell you, I have handled my responsibilities in my raising of my children and being a husband to my wife and managing the affairs of my home. My life is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I got problems, issues, and like everybody else on the face of the planet. But fatherhood is something that I take very, very, very serious. And it is time that the world begin to acknowledge the positive role that fathers have in society. Because of having a father in your life can absolutely change the trajectory of your life. Now, can you make it without a father? Yeah. Can you make it without a mother? Yeah. But having both of those pillars in your home make a dramatic difference in the outcome of your life. Scientific studies have shown that, social studies have shown that, and of course we got biblical models that show that fatherhood matters. So I know in May we got Mother's Day, and mothers are to be heralded because they have done a great job and continue to do a great job. They hold unbearable weight, many times from my opinion, of weight that they shouldn't hold. But they have done a great job in keeping the family together, and they are to be celebrated. But on Mother's Day, I dare you to go into any restaurant and try to find a place to eat. All of them are booked up solid. Ain't no roses nowhere, no candy nowhere. All the gift cards are gone. All the Hallmark cards are gone in Walgreens and CVS. You can't find nothing on Mother's Day. But then just simply go a month later on Father's Day, and you can have a party of 30. Go into a restaurant and they got space for you because there is no celebration of fathers. There is no celebration of fatherhood. And I believe this has been strategically done to take away the importance of first the man and his role as a father. And I want to give you a couple things here because I think it's terribly important that our society begin to recognize that we need strong men, not beta men, but strong, competent men. We need that. And I believe that this is a ploy of the enemy, a strategic attack by Satan himself to disarm men so that they become ineffective. Because if a man is ineffective, then a man cannot fulfill the godly role and godly assignment that God has placed on his life. And I believe that Satan understands that, and he understands the hierarchy of God and how God operates through his kingdom. And so taking men out of the picture is something that absolutely has to be done in order for the world dominance to take place. And I'm going to give you a couple things. When I talk to the men, I base the entire study off the men on Mark chapter 3, verse 27. It is an absolute profound verse. And here's what it says, that no one can come into a man's house and plunder his goods unless he first binds the strong man. No one can come into a man's house and plunder his goods unless he first ties up the strong man. So the object is not to get the goods. The object is to bind the strong man. Because when men are rendered ineffective, they can't protect nothing. They can't protect their wives. They can't protect their children. They can't protect their property because they have been bound. So they're bound by drug use, by alcohol use, by pornography, by all of the vices of the world. And because they are bound, everything that they're supposed to be protecting is left unprotected. So you have women in this world that are carrying loads that they were never meant to carry because the man is bound. And he can't carry the proper load by which God has called for him to do. Mark chapter 3, verse number 27. I thank God I have a wife that I can talk to, as I've been sharing with her that, like, when you go into a zoo, in 2010, I went to Africa. We went on a safari and I saw nature at its finest and its natural element. I have never been to a zoo since 2010. I find it difficult to go to a zoo and see a lion in a cage when I know a lion is supposed to be free. But I was telling my wife a couple of days ago that if you got a lion that has been raised in a cage from a cub, he doesn't know anything about the wild. He has been raised in captivity behind a fence. He's used to humans gawking at him and taking pictures. He sees it all the days of his life. He's been raised in captivity. But even though that lion has been raised in captivity and he's been in captivity for 10 years, when they put that lion behind the gate, they still got to lock the gate. Why? Why do they have to lock the gate of a lion that's been raised in captivity all of his life? He knows nothing about the wild. He knows nothing about fending for himself. He knows nothing about going and hunt for his food. The reason why they do that is because instinctively that lion knows that there's something beyond these fences. Instinctively, that lion knows that I'm not supposed to be caged like I am. Instinctively. So if a human were to jump that gate, even though he's been in captivity all of his life, the instinctive nature of the lion would eventually take over. Even though he's been in this cage all of his life, even though that's all he's ever seen. And I equate that to a lot of men. See, the dominant nature of man was given in Genesis chapter number 2, Genesis chapter number 1, where God said, I want you to have dominion. I want you to dominate the earth. I want you to subdue it. That dominant nature came by God's design, right? That dominant nature came by God's design. However, this world is docilizing men. This world is trying to tell men that you're not supposed to be a man. And now we have blurred the lines of femininity and masculinity, and now it's just one big gumbo mix. So now what we're telling men is you're not that lion that knows that there's something beyond this cage. The instinctual feelings that you have to dominate, to protect, to keep, that's wrong. And so if you're looking at the last quarter century to a half century, there has been a docilized nature of men, especially in the Western culture. This is important because you have to docilize that man. You have to declaw him, if you will, in order to render him ineffective. This is happening from the highest levels all the way down to the most minute. And why is this happening? If any of you know anybody that is 50 years or 60 years plus, those men are built differently. Those men are built differently. If you know anybody that's got some age on them, got some wisdom in them, those men are built differently. Those men, for the most part, now you got a few exceptions, but those men know, understand, and love hard work. They go get it. They still work 9, 10, 12 hours a day. They put it in. They get the job done. They don't make a lot of excuses. They don't sit around with their feet up a lot. They get the job done. They're serious about their family. They're serious about their children. They're serious about their way of life. That's that older school of thought where men were raised to be men. Men were raised to understand that men have responsibilities and duties that have been placed upon them that we have to fulfill. But there has been a cosmic shift in the last quarter century to half century. And this is very strategic. There's a reason that the attack that I have been saying ad nauseum for the last 2 years, that yes, we got to lift up our women. Yes, we got to pray for them. Yes, we got to make sure that they're okay. Yes, we got to lift up our children. Yes, we got to make sure that they're protected and okay. But the number one duty that we need to be doing right now, if we want things to fall in order, is getting the man in his rightful position. Getting that man where he's supposed to be. Not playing PlayStation for 19 hours out of the day, not doing all of this foolishness, surfing social media and not working, but getting the man first in his spiritual position so that he can accomplish the things by which God has given him to do. And when we get men in their rightful positions, homes are protected. Divorce rates go down. Sex trafficking goes down because the fathers are in these daughters' lives. This stuff is a ripple effect when we get men in their rightful position. And so in that, I have been for a long time saying, listen, I don't want the same way that you act a fool for your mama on Mother's Day. I want you to act a fool for me on Father's Day. Because there are men out there that have handled and are handling their assignments. We didn't run the other way when things got hard. We didn't sit in the corner and start crying in our wife's lap. No, we got the job done and is getting the job done to this day. Fathers matter. Fathers matter. And you're talking to somebody that never knew their father. But I was hell-bent on making sure that my children knew their father. So what is this thing about fathers? You know, growing up back in the day before Christ, pre-Christ, going out to the clubs, my friends and I, when we would go out, let me tell you something. Here's a little secret. We could always spot the girl who didn't have a daddy at home. When you're in the club, you could always spot the girl who didn't have a daddy at home. She acted different. You could always spot the one who didn't have a daddy, and then you could always spot the one who did have a daddy or had some type of male influence in her life, because they're two totally different women. And these are something that people like myself and others who roam the clubs and unfortunately, you know, trying to put the notches on the belt, we knew who the easy prey were. And it was those women that didn't have a father figure in their life. Because watch this, every woman is going to seek out the approval of the man that most resembles her father. That's who she's going after. The woman is going to naturally gravitate to the man that has had the most impact in her life. But where there is no man, there is a void. And so when a girl does not grow up with a father in her life, there's this huge vacuum that is demanding to be filled. And so Tyrone shows up with his pants sagging, tattoos all on his face. The vacuum is trying to be filled by any and everything. But see, when a young girl, and I'm talking about girls here specifically, when a young girl is reaffirmed by her father, told that she's beautiful by her father, protected by her father, knows that her father can be her confidant, then what that girl grows up with is this sense of confidence. So the vacuum that is there without the father has been filled by the father. Now, that's not a perfect scenario in every case. I understand that there are cases out there that are contrary to that statement. I get that. But when you're looking at the whole of the father's impact in the kid's life and on the family, those effects cannot be denied. They can't be argued. Fathers matter. They matter, people. And they matter so much that God created Adam first. God created Adam first, gave him a job, gave him an assignment, and said, Adam, you do all of this. And then he gave him Eve. And then he gave him a family. The hierarchy of God. When God was getting ready to repopulate the earth, he didn't call Noah's wife. He called Noah. When God told Abram, get thee away from thy country, away from thy kinsmen, and away from thy brethren, he didn't tell that to Abram's wife. He told him to Abram. Now watch this. Abram brought his wife. Noah brought his wife. But the command was to the man. After Moses had died at the tender age of 120, Joshua comes up through the rank. Guess who God calls? Joshua, a man. While there were many different women in the 2 million Israelites that walked across the Red Sea, he had the opportunity to call many people to lead the children of Israel after Moses had died. But that's not what he did. He called Joshua a man. Here's a man after my own heart. That's David. Here's his son Solomon. In the New Testament, God is walking by through Jesus, and he is calling men unto himself. Why? Because men have the nature to lead. And a man that understands his leadership role does not hoard that leadership over the people that God has charged him by leading. See, natural born leaders lead naturally. They don't have to force a square peg into a round hole. It's a natural leading. And if you've ever been around natural leaders, they don't have to work hard at it. They're just leaders. And this is what men have been called to do. And so I think when you're looking at all that we are looking at in our society right now, I know I'm going to sound like a broken record for those who have been watching us for quite a while, but I think everything that is going on in this nation, in this world right now, can be traced ultimately back to the degradation of the family. And because family matters. And so when I'm talking about Father's Day, it's something that greatly excites me. I have 4 children, 22, 21, getting ready to be 20 and getting ready to be 18, 3 girls and a boy. We would have been at number 9 right now if I had my way, but God saw fit to only give me 4. I wanted a very, very, very large family, but God saw fit to stop it at 4. And so we got 3 girls and my namesake, my son, Junior. And I love being a father. I love my daughters when they call me and they say, Daddy. I love hearing that. It's just something about hearing my daughter say Daddy. It's just something about my son hearing him call me Dad. And when he calls, I pick up the phone. And every time we get off the phone, we tell each other we love us. We love each other. I love that about the fatherhood. I love that. That's something that fuels me because that's legacy. And so when you're looking at men that have stepped up to the plate, this is a salute to all of you who through adverse circumstances, not enough money over here, trying to make ends meet over there, and all the different things that you've had to go through, you've hung in there, you've stayed the course, and you are to be commended. Because in an age where everybody is pulling the ripcord, with an age where everybody's just bailing out and doing their own thing, I want to celebrate those guys who are doing it right. And this is something that I've said time and time again. Stop talking about the deadbeat dad. For every deadbeat dad that you're going to talk about, I got 10 good dads that are handling their responsibilities. But we get thrown into the pot with all of the dudes that ain't doing nothing. And so I want to show you a couple things here in regards to black fathers and fathers in general, but I want to show you something specifically about black fathers. I'm not a progressive. I'm a very conservative guy. I believe in traditional values. I'm just built that way. I'm 49 years old this year, but, I'm an old man in a young man's body because I was raised around old school guys, people that just kind of looked at the world a different way. And so I've been taught by those who, had a value system. And so values and morality is still very important to me. It's very important to me. It's something that I try to pass down to my children, and it's something by which we try to govern our life. Morality, right versus wrong, good versus evil. I believe in that. So I'm a very traditional guy right down the middle. And I understand that there's not a lot of room for traditional guys. There's not a lot of guys that say this is black, this is white, this is truth, this is error. I understand that that little sliver of people is being compressed on greatly in our current culture. I understand that. But I think I'm going to die on this mountain. I think I'm going to die on the mountain of this is right, this is wrong. And not by saying this is right, this is wrong by my own opinions, because that stuff changes like the wind, but trying to use the Bible and saying this is still right and this is still wrong. Isaiah 5:20. But in that, I believe that the family is something that has to be protected. And I think it needs to be protected at all cost. And so I have come on this particular podcast, show after show after show after show, to give you numbers, statistics, studies, not just from a Christian worldview, but a scientific worldview. We've had doctors, we've had psychologists, we've had social workers sit right here at this table and talk about these things because they're absolutely important. But in regards to the Black family, this is more detrimental than it is in any community. Yesterday, for Friday, we are building a property in Pearland called the Bethel's Retreat Center. For those who don't know about it, it's a marriage retreat center, and it's going to be a phenomenal work. And I've been gifted by God and privileged by Pastor August to head that particular project. So on Friday, we had some guys coming over there that is getting ready to lay the parking lot on the property. And as he is taking his measurements, I see this little young guy who has a little cowboy hat on and some cowboy boots, and he couldn't have been no more than 9 or 10. This was on Friday at 8 o'clock in the morning. Well, on yesterday, I go back over to the property, and I see this same little 8-year-old guy on a crane moving dirt around the parking lot. And so I called my GC, my general contractor over here, and I say, hey, man, I say, who is that guy? He said, oh, that's my son, Pastor Holman. I said, your son? He said, yeah, that's my son. He said, I take him with me everywhere that I go, on every job site. Now, hear this. He's 9. He's getting ready to be 10 in August. But he goes with his father everywhere, everywhere. Wherever you see this guy, you'll see his son. At 9 years old, this guy is on a crane. This little kid is on a crane moving dirt for cement to be poured. At 9 years old, he's able to frame a house. He knows plumbing and electrical work at 9. And so I got to talking to him, man, because I'm fascinated by this stuff. I even took a video of the little guy moving the dirt. And I say, man, so tell me about this. Now this guy, my GC, is Hispanic. I say, is this a part of your culture? He said, oh, yes, Pastor. You know, we teach our children very, very young to work very, very hard. And he say, if you see any of my kind, and he's talking about Hispanics that are on the corner and not doing anything, he say the reason they're on the corner is because they want to be, because there's plenty enough work out here for everybody. He said, but we teach our children to work and to work hard. And I'm sitting there looking at this, and I said, my goodness, this 9-year-old child is learning skills, crafts, and trades that's going to feed him for the rest of his life. His father is pouring himself into his son. I was blown back. And I guess now that I've had a day or so to kind of, think about it, maybe it shouldn't have been so surprising as it was. But we're teaching our children to twerk and to play video games and to do all of this other stuff. So our kids are growing up without any skills, without any trades. But there was a time in which the older generation, they were always around their fathers and their grandfathers, picking up all of these particular trades and gifts and skills. But he was pouring himself into his son, and he's 9 years old. And as I'm watching this little 9-year-old move this tractor, I couldn't get, and I'm 49, I can't move that tractor. He's moving it backwards and forwards, sides up and down, moving dirt, pushing it over here, and he's 9. And the crazy thing about it is that his dad was over there under a tree with 2 other guys taking a break while the son was on the tractor moving the dirt. It was a phenomenal look. And it blessed my soul to see a father impacting his son like that, teaching him the right way, teaching him how to do things positive, how to work with his hands, how to stay out of trouble. And he was glued to his father. That's the model that I think God wants us to do. I think we as fathers have to pour ourselves into our children. Now hear this, you can only you're pouring into your children one way or another. Okay. And I've learned a long time ago, before you get mad at the child, look at the parent. Okay. Because the child is just a reflective of the parent. But we're all pouring into them some type of thing. We got to make sure that what we're pouring into them is the right thing. And when you're looking at the African-American community, the African-American community is in peril right now. In 1960, you've heard me, 21% of all new births in the African-American community were to single out-of-wedlock mothers. In 1960, 61. So in the age of Jim Crow, and right before the voting rights legislation, right before the civil rights legislation, Martin Luther King was still preaching, John F. Kennedy was still alive. At the height of Jim Crow, black water fountain, white water fountain, the percentage of out-of-wedlock births in the African-American community was 21%. Now, here we are in 2019, which is our most recent statistics. We're looking at 74% of all new births in the African-American community are to out-of-wedlock mothers. Post-Jim Crow, post-civil rights era, post-voting rights era, post all of the stuff that has been afforded to black folks. We have now 3 out of 4 births in the African-American community are to out-of-wedlock parents. That number is a detriment to our society. Take on the other side of that, well, the abortion. Since 1973, 77 million babies have been aborted in the United States alone since Roe v. versus Wade. Since 1973, 77 million. Out of that 77 million babies that have been aborted, hear this number, 39% of that, 39 million of that 77 million have been African-American babies. We are in a crisis where the fathers are not in the homes and our children are being aborted in the womb. We are in a crisis, and it is going to lead to the detriment of our culture. So you're looking at black fathers in particular, not just, we're talking about fathers, but I just for a second here, just for a couple minutes, I want to talk about this thing called black fathers, because it is a matter of personal, professional, and societal importance to me. I don't deal with people, men who run away from their responsibility. Now, ladies, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you something. You're not going to like it, but I'm going to tell you. Stop holding that baby responsible and punishing the baby because of what the father did. So now the baby is a ping pong ball because you trying to get back at him because he cheated on you and didn't X, Y, and Z, and so many different examples and so much stuff that going into this stuff. But the baby should never suffer because of the foolish mistakes of adults. And unfortunately, I have seen it where mothers, black mothers, can be very vindictive when talking about parental visitation of the father. I've seen it. I have seen it. I've seen it. I've seen it. But what's happening is the baby in the middle is being affected by the foolishness of the adults. So this is very important to me. Okay, very important to me. Even though my father was not in my life, my father played an indelible impact on my life. And you got to think about that statement. He wasn't there, but man, he impacted my life. He was not there at all, but man, did he impact my life. He impacted my life because I knew instinctively, just like that lion inside of that cage, that there was something greater out there. That there was something greater out there. So what this has led me to do is to do exhaustive studies. I'm still in school right now, and a portion of what I'm doing right now is in family counseling, and in particular African-American families, and talking about all of the different nuances that go into the African-American family and the cultures, and trying my best, as much as it depends on me, to try to change the narrative. So I want you to understand something, everybody. I know those in my circle are freaking great dads. I got great dads all around me. Like, I got Superman dads all around me. Like, that's all I got in my circle. One of my best friends that is in my circle, he got 6 kids. Okay. I got another one that's got 5. I got another one that's got another 5. I got another one that's got 4. And then I got 4. And everybody that's in that immediate circle are phenomenal dads. I mean, involved. You know, no, babe, I'm going to the PTO meeting. I'm going to introduce myself to the teachers at school. Those kind of dads. Those are the kind of people that are in my circle. And one of the great things about that is that it keeps everybody aiming for the stars. Because let me tell you something, we're not going to put up with you not doing what you're supposed to do. We're going to handle our responsibilities as fathers. So lastly, I want to say this to you, man, if you are taking care of your business, you've been there, you've been in the trenches as a father, man, you put the Band-Aids on the wounds, you have said the bedtime stories. If you are that guy, let me tell you something. God is extremely proud of you. I'm going to tell you this, and I'm not going to bat an eye. I don't care what the world tells you. This world needs men. Men are a necessity, not an option. Men need to be involved in their children's lives. We need to be involved in our children's lives. We will bring out the best in them or the worst in them. If you're handling your responsibilities, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing as a father, man, on this Father's Day, don't accept nothing else but the best. Because I'm telling you right now, if we get men in their proper positions, divorce rates are going to go down. Suicide rates is going to go down. All the stuff that we are dealing with in this world will go down because men are properly positioned. See, as I told my kids, and I got Vinchelle, who will be graduating this year. Markayla will be graduating next year. Junior will be graduating 2 years after that. And then Faith goes to college. I've told them that this is the standard. It's not what you're striving for. This is where you live at. This is where we're at. You're not striving to get to here. No, this is where you live. So excellence is a mindset. So this is what we're doing. And why are we doing this? Because that's all you've seen. Now you got to take where I end in life, and that's where you got to start. So you got to do exponentially more than what I've been able to do on this earth. I'm creating expectation in my children's life. I am pushing them past their limits. And when they tell me they can, and when it gets hard and this, that, and the other, and all of this stuff goes on, my job as a father is to say, hold on, let's talk about it. Let's get some understanding about it. Now let's move on. That's my job as a father. My job as a father is to push them to the next level of their life success. My wife's job as a mother is to nurture them in whatever they're going through. That's her job. I don't try to nurture my children. That's not my job. That's my wife's job. I love my children, but I guide and lead my children. That's my job. And when we are operating in capacity and doing what we have been called to do, God receives the glory. I can't tell my children to do what they don't see me doing. I can't tell them to go and finish school and education is important if I myself have not done it and they're not doing it. They got to see me doing what I'm impressing on them to do. Love God with all of their heart, their mind, and their soul. Make spiritual things a priority. Consult with God first, with man a distant second. If they don't see their father doing that, if they don't see their father loving their mother, if they don't see their father leading the house, then everything that I'm telling them is falling on rocky soil. Fathers, we got to be involved in our children's lives. So happy Father's Day to you, man. If you're swinging for the fences and if you're batting at least 300 is a good batting average in baseball. That don't mean that you got to be perfect. Because I don't know anybody that bats 1,000. But Barry Bonds and the rest of them are really good hitters who average right around about 350. So if you're averaging that, man, if you're doing the best that you can, just know that you got encouragement from Pastor Holman, from Studio B. But more importantly, man, you got encouragement from God because God wants you to be a godly father. So happy Father's Day. Don't let nobody take this day from you. Don't let nobody take this day from you. I got more than enough ties. I don't need no more ties. If it ain't no money in the card, I don't want the card. I want you to make a big deal for me like you do for your mama. because we are just as vital to the success of the home as our mothers. So to all my fathers out there, be encouraged. Be encouraged. And remember Mark 3:27, no one can come into a strong man's house and bind and plunder his goods unless he first binds the strong man. Don't be bound by stuff that's going to stop you from being a father, to being a true, authentic man, because that's what God has called for you to do. So everybody, that's a quick little thing about fathers, man. Y'all be encouraged, man, and celebrate. I think I know what I'm getting for Father's Day, and I'm quite happy about that. They'll see this afterwards, so I already know. Praise God. That barbecue pit, I'm gonna say it. I'm getting a Oklahoma Joe smoker. Oh man, so I'm taking my barbecue game up 5 notches. I'm getting away from the little smoky that's been, done me good, man. I've done some good food on there, but now I'm taking the game up. I'm taking the game up with my Oklahoma Joe smoker. So, in all seriousness, everybody, I love you, man. Men, I love you. I want you to know that you got a friend. If nobody else tells you that you're doing well, hear it from me. You're doing well. Not all men are doing what every other man is doing. There's some godly, some faithful, hard-working, hard-loving men, and congratulations to all of you guys. Now remember, when the enemy comes in like a flood, God will raise up a standard against him. If you know about me, you know that I'm going to tell you this until I can't tell you no more, that you're more than a conqueror in Christ Jesus. Be informed, be empowered, Studio B.